Continuing our Nintendo spectacle, there is one game in the Nintendo library that flourishes above all others. In fact, it is a compendium, a competition, and a celebration of not only Nintendo gaming, but gaming as a whole as it has gone on. And it all started with one game on the N64 called Super Smash Bros. This was an all-out fighting game bringing together every major Nintendo IP at the time in 1996, 7, whenever this game came out. So it include Mario, Pokemon, Metroid, Zelda, Donkey Kong, and put them all in a 4-player arena and to just beat the crap out of each other. I remember playing this at a friend's house for the first time and thinking, man, I don't know anything about any of these characters, but I love this game. And it's fun. It's one of the best party fighting games. It's not really any one genre. It really is its own genre since its inception. And all the people try to copy it from, I think, Nickelodeon to Sony. No one has really come close. And it's almost a little bit odd, frankly, because the game is not that complicated. You beat each other up until you have a certain percentage, and the way you knock someone out or make them lose a life is that with more percentage, they fly longer and you hit them with a certain attack, and they hit the edge of the stage and die and respawn. And this is a genre in itself, a smash fighter, where most fighting games are very serious. It's usually 1v1, they're locked to a screen. This one is also locked to a 2D plane, but they put in a bunch of obstacles, platforms. It feels unlike anything else. And the creator of Kirby, HAL Laboratories, was the main one who made this game. So it's kind of like if they turned Kirby into a fighting game and made this. And it is just an absolute blast. And I feel like each one of the series has something to offer. The original one, it has a very interesting soundscape, especially. The impacts are absolutely brutal. The sound of the ray gun sounds more gun-like than anything I've heard in Call of Duty, to the point where it sounds like it's breaking the sound card. But this is where it began. And I will say, though, I wouldn't start with this one, but I definitely try it. It's a little bit definitely rough around the edges, but the soul, the passion, the energy is here. And I would definitely recommend it to at least try, to appreciate the history of this great series. Next up, however, is the game where, if you are curious about this series, might be the place to really start. On the Nintendo GameCube, the game that changed many people's lives and many people's perspectives on gaming was Super Smash Bros. Melee. Or Melee, I don't know. It doesn't matter how you say it. I've heard it said a million different ways, but everyone knows the game you're talking about. This was when, the intro to this game alone is such a love letter to Nintendo's own franchises that it combines all these characters, all these companions in a single game. It almost feels like the Olympics of video games. And specifically Melee, it started to not just be a place for the other characters to come and fight in a fighting game. In the original one, it had this final boss called the Master Hand, which was kind of its own made-up thing. But here, Melee begins to feel like its own thing. Smash Brothers is almost synonymous with this game that is kind of known for its movement speed and the fact that its sequels kind of capped down on that. So for high-level play, this game has come out as the most competitive game. Even today, more than 20 years after its release, it is still played competitively. And the atmosphere, the tone, the mechanics, I've never learned how to wave dash. I don't know what that is. I know what it is, but I have no interest in learning the advanced mechanics. This is just a fine and fun game by itself. From the arcade, the story, Each character, they go through their own campaign where they, go and fight, and you collect trophies and stickers and other things to adapt to your characters. Of course, there are items, and the roster goes from the original, which was around, 8 or 12 characters to around 20 in this one. And it introduces completely new characters and mechanics. Sometimes they introduce clone characters as they start with this game. For example, Ganondorf being based off Captain Falcon's moveset, Pichu based off Pikachu, obviously. But this is where the soul, the feeling of Smash Brothers and the excitement of the 21st century, I believe released in 2000, really came into being. And here on the front, you even have Link, Mario, Bowser, Pikachu, and just... there's something about this game that's just intense. It's in your face, and it's just absolutely brutal. But no, if there's anywhere to start in this Smash Brothers universe, I would say it is actually here. Not the first one. The first one's still pretty good. It definitely has its own style, its own idea. But from an actual gameplay perspective and just overall feeling and vibe, like understanding Temple, and just the music of Temple, the layout of Temple, why it's so iconic, the years, the decades of videos done analyzing that one level, which first appeared in this game. This is where you start. This is where gaming comes alive. And as this series evolved, it became more and more broad in terms of the franchise it's collected, and it became this obsession where people wanted their characters to get into the game, and we'll see that more so with its sequel. But this is considered a cultural milestone, it's something that belongs in a museum almost. The way it has almost single-handedly been Nintendo's golden egg in the hall of competitive gaming scene, and just the stories around the culture of this game. It has its own culture. Like specifically Melee, not even Brawl in the original, but specifically Smash Brothers Melee has its own subculture, and that in itself is amazing. Next up on A Generation Up, on the Nintendo Wii, we have Super Smash Brothers Brawl. Now, I love this game. I really do enjoy this game, mainly because it was the first one to actually create kind of a cohesive story with a subspace emissary, which people kind of said, we don't really need that, but it was a really cool way to see the characters that you would see in like stills or in images in the previous games, but now they actually interact in full cutscenes. And again, the roster's expanded to more. I forget exactly, maybe 35 characters. But the big thing about Brawl is that with the kind of use of the actual internet, not just a 1.0, but a proper 2.0, people were speculating, requesting, voting for new characters. And the two big characters that actually got in this game were Solid Snake and Sonic. And now that's a very big deal because Sonic and Mario were kind of always rivals with Sega, who eventually exited, the console market. But to have their main rivals IP in this game was a huge, huge deal. And I guarantee you got a lot of people into Sonic who already weren't. And also personally got me into Metal Gear Solid. I thought, who's this Snake guy? He's just another soldier, right? Like from some Call of Duty series or something. Little did I know that appearance in this game brought me into a whole other series that I deeply appreciate. But yeah, Brawl, its main complaint is that it was slower. There was tripping. There were some mechanics that people didn't like. So on a competitive template, it just wasn't quite held up as much as the other one. But I don't really mind that. As a casual player that's just playing this for fun, the levels, the music, the compendium, everything from Melee is here, but bigger and brighter and better. And I love this game. It might actually be my favorite in some ways, just from the tone and style of it. I really actually enjoy this game a lot. And as I talk about it, it might be my favorite if it were not for the next one in the series. Now, I'm just going to give a quick caveat here that the next one in the series technically is Smash for Wii U and 3DS. I own the 3DS version or the demo of it. As good as that game was, and it brought in some new IPs like Bayonetta and Cloud from Final Fantasy, which is honestly crazy, but I never really enjoyed that game, especially, I owned a Wii U years later, and then I finally played it, and I was like, oh, it's okay. It was kind of a game that everyone kind of scratched their head and said, yeah, I guess it's Smash Brothers, but it was made by Bandai Namco. Like, there was so much about this game that just wasn't quite right. And for most people who owned a 3DS, and for most people who didn't own a Wii U, they mostly played on 3DS, and it's not great on a handheld, obviously. This is the big game. This is the celebration of Nintendo's culture and gaming and everything. And so people kind of slept on it. But on the Nintendo Switch, at the end of 2018, we were blessed with what I think is the greatest party fighting game ever. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And this truly is ultimate in every word of the sense. This is not only a celebration and a compendium of the previous games, but a nuance in how far it pushes the boundaries and barriers of its gameplay. Not only has the gameplay from Brawl been fixed, it's fast again. Not as fast as Melee, but still fairly fast. But it is absolutely a masterpiece. It's honestly, if you own a Switch, this is the only reason to get one, or this is the main reason to get a Switch, just to play this game, because it is honestly incredible. The amount of content. The roster is almost 50 characters with the DLC ones. It has, at least 50 maps. You have a different song selection you can edit for each one. You have collectibles. There is kind of an adventure mode. The one thing that isn't quite up to snuff is that in Subspace Emissary, these cutscenes, and obviously they couldn't do all that time to give equal screen time to each character. But there is an adventure mode, and it's okay. It's not quite as good as Subspace Emissary, but it still is there. But this is the best game. One of the best games I've ever played. The amount of hours I've sunk into this game are atrocious, and it is so fun and fresh, and it has the perfect principle of being a multiplayer game that you can play locally with your friends or online. I'm not really a huge fan of online, but you can play this, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful joy to play this game. And it keeps things fresh. You have items, stages, versions, songs, characters, clone characters, versions of those characters. There is so much to do, so much to unlock. And there was probably for the 5 years or so that this game came out to when they announced DLC Fighters, everyone was speculating, and there was a whole culture around this game saying, who is going to be in Smash? Who's going to be the next character? It was a cultural phenomenon. And it's kind of sad to think that this will be the best version of this game that has ever existed. Not only because Sakurai and HAL Laboratories are the main people who make this thing, and he's kind of retiring basically, but also the licensing for all the third-party characters that they have to renew every time they want a character that isn't owned by Nintendo, like Mega Man, Cloud, Solid Snake. There's always some change or mix-up. There's always some change to the moveset too. So to have every single character, not from only every previous Smash games, but new characters from the last one being Sora from Kingdom Hearts, Cloud and Bayonetta from Platinum. It is just an amazing, amazing game that, I think if anyone's familiar with Smash Brothers, they're familiar with this. But yeah, if you get into Smash Brothers, Melee, of course, is a classic way to go. But this one right here, I think this one is gonna stand the test of time, not only for its items and its mechanics, but its basic movement as well. It's not just quantitative, but it's qualitative. Absolute blasted masterpiece, and I'm so glad it got created. And yeah, that's Super Smash Brothers, and that's the one right there.